Hello, today we're going to be talking about how to teach our children to make choices as an early language skill. This is a great starting point for children who currently let us know what they want by leading us to the item or handing us the item to open it for them. Allowing children to learn how to make choices is going to be the bridge from this kind of language skill into more complex language skills that use vocal language and sign. Teaching our children how to make the choices between two items will teach them the cause and effect relationship between their actions and gaining access to a desired item. This choice making is really a pivotal skill in the building blocks to language. So, how do we start teaching this skill? It might be a difficult skill for some of our kids to learn if they haven't had this expectation before. So, start with two items, one that you know is especially highly desired, and offer both the items to the children and say, which one do you want? When the child reaches for the item, you simply give it to them and say, great, repeating the specific name of the item. So if this expectation has not been in place for your child, initially it might be a little bit difficult and you might see some resistance. So try to make it as easy and simple and straightforward for them as possible. Also making sure that they gain access to the item very quickly. As time goes on, we will refine the skill and make it more complex. Now let's watch a video clip to see how we would initially start teaching the skill. Which one do you want? Good. Pointing. There's the water. If your child indicates that they want the item by looking at it or starting to whine, but they do not reach for the item or point to it, you can take their hand and gently guide their hand to the item and count this as a step in the right direction and immediately give them the item while saying its name. Which one do you want? Good, slime. All right, so if your child is ready for the next step and they become fluent in reaching or pointing for an item when given a choice of two items, and they're able to do this for a variety of items, they're ready for the next step. So the next step involves getting your child to sign the item or say the name of the item after they have reached or pointed for the item. Look, are you hungry? Which one do you want? Oh, look, this is a goldfish.
Goldfish.
All right, there you go. All right, to teach your child how to do this next step, you hold out both items for the child, and when they select the item, you wait a few seconds for your child to say the item's name. If your child says nothing or says an incorrect name, say the name of the item and have them repeat it after you. If your child needs some support getting started with this, you can use sign language. So great signs to start with are my turn, which is your hand to your chest, or eat, which is your hand to your mouth. If your child needs some support getting started using sign language, take your hand over their hand and move it into the correct position while you say the name of the item. Or if your child is able to do the same actions as you, show your child the action and wait for them to repeat the action after you. In this next video, we'll see an example of how this is done using an action and having the child do the same action after you, using the sign, my turn, as a general sign for play with a toy. Which one do you want? Good. Look, say my turn. My turn for slime. Good job. When working on this teaching procedure, keep the language very simple and ask the question that you want your child to answer. Avoid asking yes or no questions, as this is a much more complex language skill. If your child is ready to start working on eye contact When you're working on choice making, you can bring the item that your child has selected up to your face to help your child orientate towards your eyes and also to your mouth to improve the articulation.
Water.
So there's some things you do if you're running into trouble when you're first starting to teach this program. If your child is having a difficult time making a selection, you can use a really highly preferred item versus an item you know your child doesn't really like to help them learn how to make that choice selection. Another strategy that you can use to help your child learn how to make a choice is to move the preferred item closer to the child. John, which one do you want? Oh, you want slime. And the last tip is to really grip both the items so that you have control over it and your child isn't reaching or grabbing for an item before the learning trial is over. Using this type of strategy will really help you get in more trials and to make sure your child is successful and to ensure that the skills that you're trying to teach are being taught to your student at that time.
Which one do you want? Oh, good. You want the goldfish.